Hello everyone. Welcome to NIGMS Medical Scientist Training Program Informational Webinar. My name is Mercedes Rubio and I will be providing a program overview of the NOFO. Brett Hodgkins will provide an overview from grants management's perspective and Latarsha Carithers will offer you an overview from the review perspective. The webinar video and slides will be made available on the NIGMS website. Please type your questions in the Q&A box as illustrated here instead of in the chat box throughout the webinar. If time permits, there will be an open question and answer period at the end. This webinar and accompanying slides are for informational purposes only. They serve as an overview and are not meant to be comprehensive in coverage of all required components of an application. For any submission, applicants are responsible for following the instructions detailed in the SF424 guide, the Notice of Funding Opportunity, and any related notices. This informational webinar will offer you a brief overview of the NOFOs within the basic biomedical and medical scientist training programs, key changes to the current NOFO, key program consideration, highlights of the application components, as well as presentations from my colleagues in grants management and peer review. Within the predoctoral, basic biomedical, and medical sciences training program branch, there are two types of T32s that applicants can consider. The first we have is the basic biomedical training program, where there are 12 areas that correspond to NIGMS's supported areas of basic biomedical sciences and/or of other emerging areas within the NIGMS mission. The second group of NOFOs are those that focus on the clinician scientist workforce. And these are the Leading Equity and Diversity in the Medical Scientist Training Program, also called LEAD MSTP, and the Medical Scientist Training Program, MSTP. We encourage you to consult with an NIGMS program official before submitting. This will help you identify which one is a good match. This webinar will not offer an overview of the Leading Equity and Diversity in the Medical Scientist Training Program, LEAD MSTP NOFO. For that, we have resources posted on our website, and the link is provided here. The goal of the MSTP is to develop a diverse pool of well-trained clinician scientist leaders available to address the nation's biomedical research needs. It is to provide support to eligible domestic organizations to develop and implement effective evidence-informed approaches to dual degree training and mentoring that will keep pace with the rapid evolution of the biomedical research enterprise and lead to the completion of both clinical degree and a research doctorate degree. The various NIGMS T32 predoctoral training programs have the following themes in common. They call for specific, obtainable, and measurable training objectives. It calls for the use of evidence-informed approaches to provide technical, operational, and professional skills. Rigor and transparency and the responsible and safe conduct of research is to be provided to the trainees throughout the training experience. It calls for a strong commitment to diversity and inclusion, as well as their ability to promote a culture of safety. Next, there's to be mentor training and oversight of the trainees and mentor matches. There needs to be career preparedness. That is, trainees are to be provided the knowledge of and the skills to transition into a range of careers in the biomedical research workforce. There's to be strong organizational support for research training, and there's to be an evaluation, that is the collection and dissemination of data on the successes or failures of education aims. The data, in terms of the career outcomes, are to be made publicly available. We want to offer you key program dates. On the left-hand column, you will see the various application due dates that are associated with this NOFO. The middle column gives you council dates, and the right-hand column gives you the budget start dates that correspond to each application due date. Now let's move to providing you an overview of key changes to the current NOFO. Key NOFO changes. First, resubmission applications are only accepted for renewal applications. There are now two required other attachments: baseline data on trainee pool and recruitment plan to enhance diversity. You may submit two optional attachments related to the advisory committee and the training activities. Appendices that were previously required have now been eliminated. An application will be considered new if the applicant organization does not have a funded MSTP or has been funded through one of the PAAs noted here. An application will be considered a renewal if the applicant organization has had a funded grant through NIGMS under one of the noted PARs. There are differences in requirement for new versus renewal applications. For example, the training tables will be slightly different, and a renewal application will require a progress report. The NOFO also has new language to encourage the following: faculty training and resources for trainees with disabilities, trainee feedback, climate evaluation and confidentiality considerations when evaluating the program, program directors or principal investigators' involvement with day-to-day activities, including trainee interactions, program oversight, including trainee development, progress, mentor-mentee relationships. There's also new language to clarify that training programs are typically not considered human subject research. Also, there's information and new language about research training program specific instructions in the facilities and other resources section. NIGMS issued a feedback loop about some of these changes, and the link is provided here. New applications that are not funded are not allowed to submit a resubmission application. That is no A1s. And as a reminder, new applications are from applicant organization with no MSTP or funded through the PAs noted here. Unsuccessful new applications are encouraged to reapply by submitting another new application that utilizes the feedback from the previous review. Renewal applications, and those are listed here in terms of which PAR are eligible for renewals, that are not funded on the initial attempt may be revised and resubmitted as a resubmission application. Renewals will be allowed to have A1s. I hope this table helps you navigate the various requirements by application type. This table has an X on items that are not required by application type. For example, new applications do not require any of the items noted in the content column. Renewal applications do not require an introduction, mention of previous scores, mention of reviewers' comments, or mention of where the application has been modified. However, a renewal application is to include a progress report, training outcomes, and Table 7. Resubmissions require all of the items noted in the content column. As a reminder, under this NOFO, new applications that are unsuccessful will need to come back in again as a completely new application. Renewals will be allowed a resubmission, also known as an A1. The NOFO for which renewals and resubmissions are allowed are noted on this slide. The number of required other attachments is reduced. 2 other attachments are required. That is the baseline data on the trainee pool and the recruitment plan to enhance diversity. 2 other attachments are now optional, and these are the advisory committee and training activities. All remaining other attachments from the previous NOFO have been eliminated. Described in the NOFO is the content that is to be incorporated into various sections of the program plan. Again, no additional other attachments may be included. If you include this, the application will be withdrawn without review. Briefly, I will highlight what is new in the appendices section. NOFO-specific requirements for appendices have been eliminated. Applications may only contain appendices that are allowed according to the SF424 application guide. Applications that contain any additional appendices will be withdrawn without review. Applications may incorporate information previously allowed in the other attachments or appendices in the training program plan as indicated in the NOFO. And some of these other attachments and appendices information that was asked for before related to the retention plans, trainee data collection and storage, conflict resolution protocols as a few examples. Next, I'm going to review some of the aspects of the SF424 and some application components. As you begin to prepare to submit the application, please review the SF424 application guide and the forms used when you submit an institutional training grant. For example, if you are to submit an application prior to the January 2025 deadline, you are to submit the application using Form H. Applications after the January 2025 deadline are to submit the institutional training grants using Form I. As a reminder, the NOFO supersedes the SF424 application guide. Notices supersede the NOFO and the SF424 application guide. Also, please check the NOFO and any related notices issued, since sometimes there are updates, and it may be important to know any updates related to the required attachments, the optional material, or the appendices. Applicant organizations are to be mindful of the various application components, page limits, and of required and optional attachments. The application should describe the curriculum and overall training plan, including the required elective courses, structured activities, and research experiences. The application may include additional supporting information, for example, streamlined syllabi with topics, timelines, activities, credits, etc., in an optional training activities attachment. Please follow the page limits noted here. If you go over the page limit, your application may be withdrawn prior to review. This slide shows where the various components of the application are to be uploaded. On this slide, we list some of the items to be included in the research training program plan. This is not an exhaustive list. Please follow the guidance in the NOFO versus those listed in the SF424 application guide. Applicants are required to comply with the instructions for plan for instruction in methods for enhancing reproducibility as provided in the SF424 application guide. NIH also has various resources, and some of these resources are listed here with the various websites where they could be found. Additionally, all applications must include a plan to fulfill NIH's requirement for instructions in the responsible conduct of research. There are 5 components that must be addressed. Components should be well integrated into the overall curriculum at multiple stages of trainee development in a variety of formats and contexts. Explain how teachings in the responsible conduct of research synergizes with the curriculum design to enhance trainees' ability to conduct rigorous and reproducible research. Describe how all program faculty will reiterate and augment key elements when trainees are performing research in their labs. Applicants are required to comply with the SF424 application guide instructions. Renewal applications require a progress report. The progress report is intended to demonstrate that the program successfully strengthened the research training environment and promoted broad participation in the biomedical research workforce. You are to describe the implementation of proposed activities, results and changes from program evaluations, and the impact and dissemination. If challenges or program shortcomings were identified, describe sound plans for overcoming or remediation of them. Include up to 1-page summary per trainee of progress of those appointed to the training grant. And here we encourage you to see the SF424 for guidance. In this next section, I'm going to discuss participating faculty biosketches, letters of support, and the NIH training tables. Briefly, I'm going to cover important points about the faculty biosketches. Personal statements should be tailored to the application. That is, in the biosketches, the faculty member should address how they are committed to training and mentoring and promoting rigor and reproducibility and safety for the trainees as described in the NOFO. It is important that the faculty follow the new format, and the notice related to the description of the new format is noted here. Failure to follow the appropriate biosketch format may cause NIH to withdraw your application from consideration. The organizational support letter, which has a 10-page maximum, must be attached as part of the letters of support. The letter must be on organizational letterhead and signed by a president, provost, dean, or similar key leader that describes the activities and resources provided by the organization that will ensure the success of the planned training program and its trainees. The areas of commitment to be described in the organizational support letter are noted in the NOFO. If this letter is not included, the application will be considered incomplete and will not be reviewed. Additional letters of support are permitted. However, these letters may not contain any information that is required in the organizational support letter. Once you have these letters, combine them and put them in a single PDF file. Before embarking on the task of completing the NIH training tables, please read and review the instructions for the various tables that are required. On this slide, we remind you of which tables are required for new and renewal T32 applications. As a reminder, for NIGMS predoctoral training grants, Table 6A is not required. This slide shows the content requirement for each NIH training table. You don't see Table 6A listed since NIGMS predoctoral training grants do not require Table 6A. Applicants are encouraged to use Suggested Format Table A for single departmental applications and both Suggested Format Table A and Suggested Format Table B for applications with multi-departmental or multi-organizational structures. In the program plan, applicants should summarize key data from the training tables that highlight the characteristics of the training grant eligible pool, program faculty, organizational support, student outcomes, and other factors that contribute to the overall training environment of the program. As a reminder here, required tables for a new application are Table 1, 2, 3, 4, 5A, and 8A. If you're submitting a renewal application, the required tables are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5A, 7, and 8A. Do not submit Table 6A. Instead, you may use suggested formats Table A or suggested format Tables B if applicable, and upload as attachment in the Other Project Information section. Applications that do not include the required NIH training tables or that submit additional data tables in the Data Table section will be withdrawn prior to review. NIGMS does not require Training Table 6A in its institutional predoctoral T32 training grant applications, whether they're new or renewals. If Table 6A is included, the application will be considered non-compliant and may not be reviewed. Applicants must submit baseline data on the trainee pool. Applicants are encouraged to use suggested format Table A for single department program applications and suggested format Table A and suggested format Table B for applications with multi-departmental or multi-organizational structures. For more information about the data tables for NIGMS institutional predoctoral T32 training programs, please visit the predoctoral NIH data tables and suggested data formats website. To avoid the inclusion of Table 6A in the training table set generated via extract, applicants should omit the start year of the most recently completed academic year when prompted in the applicants/entrance section. We encourage you to see the frequently asked questions for more information. What this does is that the PDF that is generated will exclude Table 6A. Let me offer you some brief guidance on how to complete Table 8A. For renewal applications, you should complete Part 1, Part 2, and Part 4. New applications should complete Part 3, which presents information about recent graduates only. The data presented in Table 8A should be discussed in the training program plan narrative. In the next couple of slides, I'm going to highlight some of the resources available to you that include the NIGMS Predoctoral Research Training Grant website, some predoctoral training grants frequently asked questions, and a list of NIGMS T32 staff. Additional resources are the NIGMS informational videos on how to complete the NIH training tables. There are T32 data tables and instructions, and as a reminder, applications submitted prior to the January 2025 deadline are supposed to be submitted using Form H, and applications after the January 2025 deadline are to use Form I. We also have resources related to frequently asked questions, extract user guide and resources, and extract videos. We are finally at the last slide of my presentation, and I want to offer you some advice for applying. Submit early. This is at least 2 days before the deadline. Always review your application and check for completeness. There's a 2-day reviewing period, and please take advantage of this. Correct any errors and address all warnings. Note that not all failures to comply are caught by the automated notification. If you're curious and need a resource about the submission process, there's a link here. I thank you for your attention, and now I'm going to turn it over to one of my other NIGMS colleagues.